Hello, everybody. It's me, Roscoe, and welcome to the latest episode of the Kings of Anglia Track the Girls Talk podcast, a show where we cover all things Ipswich Town Women. Happy New Year to you all. And we have an emergency breaking news podcast. I'm here with good old Tom Cann as standard. Tom, let's start with the nicey niceys. How are you? Happy New Year to yourself. Hope you had a good festive period.
And you, thank you very much. It's been nice to have a little while off. I worked Christmas Day, but nothing really happened. And then I came back to work at the start of this week, so it's been a very nice time off. Very good to just relax, not have to worry about anything. And yeah, come back refreshed. And then obviously this news drops and sort of throws everything up in the air. But yeah, how was your Christmas and New Year's?
No, it wasn't too bad, my friend. For Christmas, I'm all for the food and to be merry. All the other bits and bobs, I just can get in the bin, to be honest. But yeah, we've got some breaking news to talk about, so we're trying to sort of not get to that just yet, but we're going to have to do it. And that is Joe Sheehan has departed his role as Ipswich Town Women's manager. News that I was not expecting. And yeah, it's very shocking, really, and disappointing. And I want to get your sort of instant reaction, Tom, because you straight away messaged me and go, what's going on here? And it is shocking news. He's obviously been in charge for nearly 7 years. When you think of Ipswich Town Women, you think of, three different things potentially. You think of Natasha Thomas, the legendary striker, all-time appearance maker, Sophie Pescott, the star player, Maria Boswell, the captain, but also Joe Sheehan, Ipswich Town Women's manager. Your instant reaction on this, my friend?
Shocked. I think was the first. As you said, I messaged you pretty much as soon as I saw it. I didn't even read, the article that had been put out about it. I think I saw it on Instagram that he'd left, and very shocked. I think it was just because things, maybe haven't been going as well as they could this season. So I think it was the fact that it had been 2 weeks, 3 weeks since their last game, and then all of a sudden it comes out in the week before they get back into things. I just wasn't expecting it. It's really sad, shocking news, but I just sort of threw me for six that, because I was just obviously doing my normal job, looked at Instagram, saw it, and then thought, oh, okay, well, that's happened.
Yeah, you think, this must be an AI thing. It must be, just someone making something up. But no, it is true. And I've got a statement here from Town's chairman, Mark Ashton, and he said, I'd like to thank Joe for the passion and commitment he has shown during his time in charge of Town Women, which has included a team moving to professional status, as well as 2 promotions under his leadership. We're currently in discussions with Joe regarding a new role, which will hopefully see him remain at the club, utilising his vast experience in developing young players. We look to continue the growth of the club's women's programme, both in the short and long term, bringing with our desire to retain our status in WSL2 during the 11 games of the season under the interim leadership of David Wright. We're going to discuss everything that's, this will bring up, because it is big news. And let's start with the current situation, Tom, in terms of the league position. This is obviously the first time the club have been at WSL2 level under the Ipswich Town umbrella. I'm sure Joe will admit that it's not gone as well as we're all hoping. We're currently bottom of the table, just 1 win in those 11 games so far, 5 points adrift, only 5 points in total. It's probably not where we want to be, but at the end of the day, we've got a squad that is still learning. Most of the players have never experienced this level before. It was always going to be tough. We've got a lowest budget in the league. We've probably got less staff than a lot of the other clubs. I remember seeing some of the clubs I've gone, who have come to Colchester and going, they've got like 700,000 staff members. While he's that's grown a little bit, but it's still very, less than other WSL2 clubs. Tom, obviously the position isn't great where we're at, but yeah, it's this season's always going to be a learning season.
Yeah, definitely. I think that being bottom is obviously not what Joe wanted. I remember him saying before the start of the season, he wants to be up there, he wants to be challenging. And that just obviously that hasn't happened. It won't happen. They're now in a relegation fight. Obviously, favourites for relegation being so many points off safety, and as you said, having the smallest budget in the league and not having as big a squad or staff at the club. And it's their first season at the level. They weren't. I think it would be. You look at Nottingham Forest and what they've done. They have a lot more money. They've gone out and spent it, and they're doing all right. I think that's what would have been the hope for Ipswich. It hasn't worked out that way. They find themselves bottom, and it's not a good position that they want to be in. But they've got players that I think their average age is something like 21, 22. Ipswich, and it's really difficult to be able to compete, maintain levels that they want with a squad that young. Staff that haven't worked at the level before, players, majority of them haven't played at the level before. It was always going to be tough. I don't know if they wanted to wait and see how long they could go, but yeah, it's been a tough season, and they got what is it, half a season now because
Second half of the season now, yeah.
Yeah, so they've got 11 games to sort of save it and see if they can stay up, but they're really going to need to put in performances in order to do that.
Yeah, I'm just shocked with the timing, really, because David Wright is now the interim manager. He's obviously a promising young coach. Obviously a bit older than Joe, because but David Wright obviously has been in the academy for a while now. He's been with the under-21s, the under-18s. He's been assisting Joe the last few weeks at games. He'll obviously be interim charge with Lauren Phillips, who's been obviously Joe Sheehan's assistant, and the coaching staff that's already there. But I just think the timing is just interesting because we're now in the second half of the season. I don't know what will change really, because we've still got the same squad. I think players got to take an account a little bit of responsibility. I think some players, once again, a lot of them, are experiencing new things for the first time. But there's some, players who have been brought in who, as was said on previous podcasts, haven't, maybe stepped up to what we're expecting them to be because they've got experience this level. But that's the thing with when managers get, sacked or they leave. Sometimes you got to think of the players as well. And I'm sure a lot of players are like, I'm sure devastated because there's some players who don't know anything different. Like Maria Bosbell, the captain, I think has been coached by Joe since she was like 14, playing with the Essex RTC. So that will be a big change, in the dressing room. And then, I don't know, David Wright, will he change much on the style of play? We'll find out. But yeah, are you surprised by that decision? Just, halfway through a season, they could have just said, okay, Joe, do what you can do for this season. And then they'll, could have had a chat in the summer and go, okay, it hasn't worked out. But then it's like sort of the Kieran McKenna sort of situation where he obviously took Ipswich Town. I know it's men's football, a little bit different, but he obviously took Ipswich Town to the Premier League. We didn't survive, and he's been given a chance in the Championship. And once again, we've had a bit of a up and down season in the Championship, but they've made the decision to do it now. How are you feeling about it all?
I think the timing is the most shocking part. I think if they were going to do it, and they had a feeling that they might do it after the December games against Durham and Sunderland, do it. I'd have thought that they'd have done it pretty soon after Sunderland, rather than wait, until the 6th of January, 4 or 5 days before they're back in action against, the best team in the league, no less, and then decide to do it. The first first part is shocking. And the second part, yeah, I'd have thought that they could have just said, we'll see, let's see how the season goes. All these players, they know how you play. You've got a very clear game plan, game style. We'll stick with it, see what happens, and then talk in the summer, because relegation just means that they'll be favourites for promotion next season. Chance to build on what they've got this season, such as what the men's team have got. They've got relegated and kept a lot of the players that were in the Premier League with them, and now Jack Clark, Jaden Philogene shining. See what could have happened with those players if relegation was confirmed, that stayed at Ipswich Town Women, and saw what they could have done. I think the timing has just come a little bit at a shock. David Wright hasn't managed the team. Obviously, he's been part of the coaching staff for the last couple of weeks. We don't obviously know how involved he's been, or what he's sort of been doing with the players, but he's coming in and has to try and save a ship that is sinking, unfortunately, with players that have never played under him. He's never managed solely, the team. Obviously, he's still got the staff, and Lauren Phillips has obviously worked with the team for the last year and a half. But he's got to come in and try and do something different that they're not doing, and I'm not 100% sure what that could be, in order to try and save them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still in shock, really. And I will admit, I'm sure Joe will be honest and say there's maybe some decisions this season he may have not done right, maybe in game situations. You spoke to him after games, and he's very honest with his interviews. And there's he's been getting some criticism. Some fans out there have said certain things. But then it's such a learning experience. We're playing against teams who have got former England internationals and players who have got so much experience at this level. Like the thing when we played Newcastle United, they had Jordan Nobbs, and Debbie Stokes, who've played for England multiple times. But I'm just speculating here. But yeah, David Wright, was being assistant the last few weeks. I'm sure the club may have had this in their mind that, maybe they're looking to make a decision, before they obviously announced it. But yeah, obviously, big part of the statement, Tom, was we're currently in discussion with Joe regarding a new role. And yeah, I'm sure they would like to, keep him at the club because he's, he knows he's got so much knowledge and so much experience. I can't see that happening, to be honest. I'm sure discussions are being made right now. What do you think about that? What's next, really, Tom? Because, yeah, it's a strange situation. You're telling someone you're going, but we want to keep you. I think it's always, when I've seen that in different statements before with other clubs, a bit different, managements that go, we want to keep you though, but it's like, well, I don't know. It's interesting, and it's a bit complicated, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it is complicated. I think it is strange to say, we don't want you to do the role that you're currently doing and have been doing for the last nearly 7 years, and actually been doing really well in, and making the Ipswich Town women's team what it is now. But we still want to keep you around to, do what you have been doing, but not in the position that you were doing it in. Developing young players, because he's clearly shown that he's brilliant at that. He's 90% of the Ipswich squad now. Joe Sheehan has brought through the youth ranks, and have gone on to be WSL2 players. So it is surprising. I don't know whether he would like to stay. It's obviously that's up to them. Obviously, don't know what's going on with the discussions and things, but I think if someone had asked me to, told me to leave what I was doing and had done so well for so many years, and then said, we still want to keep you around though, I'd have gone, really? Like, I'd stay if it was in the current role that I have been doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll find out, I'm sure, a bit more in the future. But yeah, my gut says yeah, I can't see him remaining at the club. But I want to sort of look back at Joe's spell, Tom, because it has been an incredible ride. Like I've known Joe longer than he has been Ipswich Town manager. Like he got appointed in February 2019, but before that he was doing a great job with the under-21s, which was I think an FA actually sort of program that was connected to the club under Ipswich Town under-21s, but I don't think it was like officially Ipswich Town at that point. It was like under the FA program. That was in I think 2018 or 2017. So I met Joe then. That was when we had Ralph Pruden in charge of the Ipswich Town women's team, who that were obviously fourth tier. And then Carla Dickerson, I think her name was. Sorry, Carla, I've got your last name. She took over at Ralph, and then unfortunately it just didn't work out with her. And then Joe was obviously around, with the under-21 set up, and then he got appointed in February. And I just remember literally just so many great memories with Joe. I remember actually going up to Manchester to see the under-21s when they played at Carrington, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was watching, because I think his daughter was on the bench for the under-21s. But I just remember going up there, and I remember just seeing this amazing facility. But yeah, obviously when Joe got appointed, me and Kieran Stanley, the former media manager, were just buzzing because we just knew Joe as a character and as a coach. And yeah, it's been one hell of a journey since 2019. He's managed. I think he must have managed nearly 200 games. I don't know. I'll have to find that stat out somewhere. But yeah, he's obviously guided the club to the third tier. Obviously, that had to be an application process, which, because with COVID, had to ruin all that success. And so we didn't have that proper celebration, or the celebration of third tier. We had to sort of do that oh yeah, we got promoted. What application? But we have done so well on the pitch prior, but COVID ruined it. I think it was 2 seasons got curtailed because of obviously what was going on in the world. But last season, Tom, was incredible. Getting promoted from the third tier. I know that took us a little while to get promoted to the second tier, but last year was incredible. What's your sort of memories of Joe, Tom? Because you spoke to him many times before and after games. He's such a lovely bloke as well. He's not just a good manager; he's a lovely bloke. A family man. I've loved sort of meeting his family. He's got a wonderful fiance. He's getting married in the summer. He's got a lovely daughter. We've got the same birthday as me as well. So good birthday, good day of birth. But he's mum and dad, Bill and Carol, who go to every game, which we always bump into him, don't we, Tom? And they always come over and they speak to us. But yeah, Joe Sheehan, Tom, what a man and what a manager.
Yeah, that pretty much perfectly sums him up. He's when I started two and a half seasons ago, he made it very easy. You could have some people that were difficult to talk to. I do it in my day job, and I'm sure that there are a number of people and managers out there that aren't very good at talking. But he's brilliant at it. He's very open. He's honest about his thoughts. You just need to look at the impact that he's had on players, fans, staff around him, and wider media. Conor Bennett loves him to bits at the BBC, and did get a bit annoying having to wait for 20 minutes while they were having their chats about roast dinners after games previously. But that just shows how much of a good guy Joe is, and how much time he has for people that come and give the women's team coverage and share what's going on there. He's done a brilliant job. As I said earlier, Ipswich Town Women, I don't think would be anywhere near where they are if it wasn't for him. Obviously, he has had the new ownership come in who have put a little bit behind the women's team, and got in Rachel with managing it all, but they wouldn't be there. The players probably wouldn't be anywhere near the level that they are currently playing at if it wasn't for him. And his commitment to the team. You saw how much it meant to him. I remember after MK Dons last season, when it was pretty much all but confirmed they had one game left and there was no way that they weren't going to get promoted after that. And he was just loving all the celebrations. He was hugging everyone he could see, and don't want to embarrass him, but a couple of tears I noticed come from his face, and the trophy lift at the end of last season. You can see how much it meant to him then. He's very passionate about the club and about the team, and he's led it brilliantly to the point where they are a professional football club now. They're second tier of English football, English women's football. They've got international players, players that will probably thank Joe for the rest of their careers for where they are at this moment in time and where they'll go on to be. They'll probably look back and think, Joe was probably one of the main reasons they are where they are. So, yeah, it's really sad. He's going to leave such a legacy behind with everything that he's done at the club to make women's football more popular for Ipswich fans. I've seen fans on social media yesterday react to it, and pretty much all saying the exact same thing of how much time he gives to them as well. At the end of games, he'll go and do what the players do, take pictures, autographs. I've obviously not known him for as long as you. You could probably share more about what he's like as a bloke, but yeah, all my experiences with him has been brilliant.
Yeah, and you made a perfect reference. Legacy. He's going to leave such a legacy behind, because he leaves the club in a better place than he found it. Because as you say, the club weren't professional. They were training maybe twice a week. They didn't really have a kit, to be honest. Now they're full-time professional players. Now this is their full-time job. It's not the same money as say the men's team, but it's still that a lot of them now, they don't need to worry about working. They're now professional footballers. The hours he has spent, the commitment he's put in, once again, those sort of things you don't hear about, because you don't really want to publicize that, because at the end of the day, it's my job, you're the manager, but there's so many hours he's committed to this football club. I think he's even become a fan of the football club as well. As I remember him just going to games just as a fan, going in a stadium. I know he's done a lot of town TV stuff, because I think he's a good talker. We've seen, he's been on the podcast many times. I actually remember when we had the office at Portman Road, he went to, we went there, he came there a few times, because we've had obviously historic FA Cup runs. When we played Man City for the first time, he came to the office and we were just chatting about that, and we were just like going, bloody hell, we're playing Man City. This is when we were a fourth tier team as well. And we're like, we're playing Man City. What is going on? And I think, we're obviously on TV and everything. I know he went on Look East and all that jazz. And it was incredible going up there. Obviously, we won't talk about the result because it, wasn't great. But, that was just incredible. And, I was very fortunate, in those early days. I'd travel with the team, and, we were staying in hotels and stuff. And, just got great memories with, good old Kieran Stanley, just, in the bar, just chatting. And, he's just got such a great football mind. And, it's going to be weird. I was saying this yesterday to somebody, like, when you write pieces, you go Joe Sheehan side, it's just going to feel weird. Like even yourself, when you now, speak to someone after the game, it just will feel weird. But yeah, he's going to leave such a legacy. And like the thing, we've played at Portman Road twice. The crowds have just got bigger and bigger. Obviously, a lot of that is the players. They play really good football because of Joe. And that's the thing as well. The style of play has been incredible. He's brought through so many players. And that's what he's always been about with the club. That was his DNA, his homegrown players. As you mentioned, 90% of the team is homegrown. A lot of them, I'm sure, are going to be a bit lost, just like us. That, like, as I said, Maria Boswell, Luce O'Brien, Sophie Pescott, Kyra Robertson, Leah Mitchell, Megan Waring, Paige Peake. You can name most whole squad. There's only Natasha Thomas who's known different because she was here before Joe came in and before all this. But yeah, it's incredible. And yeah, let us know in the comments down below, Leisure, and your thoughts, your feelings on this. It's going to take a while, I think. We've got a game this Sunday against the league leaders, Charlton, and it will still feel weird, looking at a dugout and not seeing Joe. Once again, he was famous for having a hat. He would always wear a baseball hat. I think originally it was like an Ipswich Town hat, and I think he didn't change it for a long, long time. It was fading a little bit. Obviously, when we've gone to Umbro, he's got that iconic Umbro one. But yeah, I think he's touched a lot of lives, and he's changed a lot of lives as well, on and off the pitch. Yeah, obviously the ownership coming in and Mark Ashton and co, putting a bit more money into the club has helped that. But I think from where we were, in the fourth tier, just sort of like bobbling along, not really doing much, to now a WSL2 team. Yep, I know we're struggling. We're bottom of the table. And yeah, as I said earlier in the chat, I'm sure Joe will put his hand up and say, yeah, there's some decisions maybe made this season on the pitch, off the pitch. Maybe I could have done a bit differently. But you just never know. And he's not been given a chance, really, Tom, has he, to sort of finish the job until the summer. And then, yeah, the club could have gone, okay, we've not done what we wanted to do. But yeah, what's your final words, my friend? I've gone a bit of a monologue here. I think I've got a bit of a bias thing with Joe because I've known him for so long. I've known him before he was manager, as I said. And yeah, still sort of in shock, really. But yeah, I'll sort of let you take over for a moment.
Yeah, it will be really different going to Colchester on Sunday and not seeing him in the dugout, not seeing his little run up the stairs to go and sit high up so that he can get a better view of everything. He's known to do that. Sit in the press box occasionally. He came and sat behind us at St Mary's Stadium for the first game of the season. I thought he'd got yellow carded or red carded when I didn't notice, but no, he was just doing his normal running up the stairs, having a better look, going back down. It will be different. It'll be strange not talking to him after the game and having someone else instead. And I'm sure it will be really strange for the players. I'm sure it's a question that we'll pose to them: is what has it been like this past week without him? How different is it? Because it will feel really, really odd for all of them going into work and not having a figure that you've had there for so many years, leading team talks, leading dressing rooms. It will feel strange for everybody. I'm sure Sunday will be extremely weird. For the fans, for media, for players. Yeah, it will just it will. I think you'll notice that he's not there going forward.
Yeah, definitely. And good thing with Joe though, he's not going to be short on offers. He's got a big future ahead of him. He's still very young as a coach, really. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for Joe and look at his options and stuff. So we'll find out what's next for Joe Sheehan. But yeah, it's just going to be weird, not calling the Ipswich Town manager the gaffer. That is what is in my phone. Joe Sheehan gaffer, because yeah, that's what I called him for so long. I remember he used to call me Ross Media. That was my my handle on social media. He just go, "Oh, Ross Media." So yeah, great memories, and yeah, we'll see what's next for the club as well. And that is a big game, Tom. It doesn't get any easier for the team. Charlton up next, back at Colchester. First game of 2026. League leaders, we drew. We held them to a goalless draw back in September, but that was in September. And at that point, I don't think Charlton were, they were doing okay, but they weren't doing as well they are right now. They're unbeaten in 11 games. They've won 8 of those, I think. So yeah, I think they've drawn 3. So this is a hard task to start of the David Wright interim era.
Yeah, I don't think it could be a tougher start for him. It's it's hard to even think about what could happen because we don't know how Ipswich are going to play. We don't, it's a new manager. It could be a completely different formation. Could be a new system. They could set up a low block and try and just do what every single team does to the men's team and just try and stop any sort of attack. I think Charlton, bizarrely, I think that the only teams that have actually taken points off Charlton are the teams that are lower down in the table. The teams that are a little bit more of a, if you want to come and attack us, go for it, but we'll just defend. Um, so it will be interesting to see what happens. It will be a very tough game. They are flying. They will, with half a season left, they will be going. Okay, the league is ours to lose. They want to be a WSL club. So we'll see what happens, but it will be nice just to get back into it because it has been a very, very long time. I can't even remember the last time we were at an Ipswich Town Women's game. Obviously, they had two in December, but they were both absolutely miles away, and we weren't able to do them in person. So I can't remember the last time we went to Colchester, but it will be a really tough game. Interesting to see what happens. Interesting to see what team is put out. Interesting to see how the players play under a new manager and potentially a different system as well.
Yeah, I was quickly trying to find the fixtures because it's been a while since we've had a home game in general. I think the last time we had a home game was Crystal Palace, 16th of November. So it's been a while. So I think it would nearly be 2 months since we last were at Colchester to see the Ipswich Town Women's team. But there was some difficult results. Prior to that, the 7-0 defeat to Bristol City, which was I'm sure for Joe that was a very difficult afternoon for him as a manager. I'm sure the team as well. And then we've obviously progressed in the FA Cup. AFC Portchester will beat them 5-0 at their place. But as you mentioned earlier, Sunderland we lost 2-1 to end 2025. And quickly, just in case you haven't noticed, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Sheffield United, who are obviously a league rival, and we've got them in the FA Cup next round, and that's actually going to be played at Felixstowe, Tom. So we're going to be going back to the spiritual home of Ipswich Town Women. It'll feel weird going back there, but I'm trying to decide if it's going to be colder than Colchester, because Colchester is very cold in the summer, but Felixstowe, of course, you're near the sea. So I'm just debating. This is going to be a question I'm going to ask you right now. What do you reckon? Obviously this Sunday is going to be cold against Charlton, but I don't know if the FA Cup game was played at Colchester, would it be as cold as it will be at Felixstowe?
I think it will be colder at Colchester than it will be at Felixstowe. I think Colchester Stadium is absolutely ridiculous for freezing. Thankfully I got a new coat, so that sort of solves one problem because I constantly just complain about how cold it is, and I think everyone's getting a bit annoyed with me saying it's just cold and not doing anything about it. So I have got a new coat, but it will still be absolutely freezing at Colchester on the weekend. And I think if the FA Cup game was played at Colchester, it would be colder than it will be at Felixstowe. There's a shed at Felixstowe that people can hibernate in, and they've got obviously that big cafe area, and there's some sort of protection. Whereas at Colchester, if you want to watch the game, you have to be in a seat with the wind. So yeah.
But a good thing about it with Colchester, we can go into like a media room and hide in there for a bit.
Have a tea, which is very nice, very welcome.
Yeah, in Felixstowe, like they've got a lovely clubhouse, obviously, and you can sort of huddle in the clubhouse. But I'm sure there's gonna be loads of people doing that. But it will be nice going back to Felixstowe. That will be a 1 p.m. kickoff next Sunday. But this Sunday, of course, is back at Colchester against Charlton Athletic, the leaders. We shall see what happens with that. But a new era at the club, at end of an incredible era under Joe Sheehan has ended. I'm going to be putting together actually a piece looking back at his journey at the club. That'll be online at some point today, or whenever you listen to this, it will be online anyway. So check that out. But yeah, Tom, any other business as we wrap up this emergency Track the Gals Talk podcast?
No, I don't think so. I think just it'll be a very different experience going forward. The news came as quite a big shock. Looking forward to seeing how David Wright does, obviously, and see what he can do. But hopefully he can turn around, Ipswich's season before it gets too late.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, big opportunity now for the players to step up. As I said earlier in the chat, I'm sure they take a bit of responsibility of this, because there's some that may have been disappointed with their performances this year. But the thing is that, the fans just got to get behind the team. 11 games to go. Anything can happen. I know they're 5 points adrift. They need to get some big results, and we shall see what happens. But yeah, back down at Colchester. I'm getting ready, Tom, just like you, for putting loads of layers on, and yeah, ready to freeze our butts off. But thanks for listening to the latest Kings of Anglia Track the Girls Talk podcast. We're hoping to bring you more of these in the coming weeks to reflect on future games and other bits and bobs. Would there be transfers? It's the January transfer window. Could Ipswich Town Women make some signings? We shall wait and see. But thanks again for listening. Shout out to our sponsors, Molecular and Stardust Spirits. Use the codes to get discounts on them great sponsors local to us. And follow us on all the socials in Kings of Anglia. And, of course, follow our coverage when we're at games as well. Tom, of course, does a good match report on the game. My snappy snaps, of course. And we'll see you and speak to you in the next episode. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now. And listen, of course, if you're listening. But anyway, Tom, let's go.